Welcome back to the Cryptoworld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is not only playing out the oversold signal, but we're also now starting to play out a short squeeze as the price of Bitcoin is exactly wiping out this liquidity that I've been targeting recently here on the channel. And we're also now starting to form a new price pattern for the price of Bitcoin that we need to pay attention to. So I'll be talking about that in just a moment and potential price targets that this reveals, alongside the fact that Ethereum is breaking out back above a key level on the price chart, while the price of Solana is getting very close to breaking out above this critical level on the price chart. So I'll be talking about all of that and so much more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before taking a look at the Bitcoin and crypto charts today, taking a look at some Bitcoin news today, because just over the last one day on Tuesday, we saw a massive net inflow into the spot Bitcoin ETFs. This time around, it was a net inflow of almost $600 million US, around 588 million US entering the Bitcoin ETFs just on Tuesday. And of course, this has happened just after a net inflow of $350 million on Monday. So overall, so far this week, from the numbers that we have so far, just on Monday and Tuesday, once again, we have a net inflow of almost $1 billion, around 939 million US, just in 2 days. And in case you're new to all of this, the spot Bitcoin ETFs are basically ETFs that are backed by actual Bitcoin. So in other words, when investors buy the ETF shares, so for example, if they buy IBIT, which is the shares of the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF, that money effectively goes to BlackRock, and then BlackRock has to buy Bitcoin on the spot market, for example, in order to back the ETF. And then if an investor basically pulls their money out of these ETFs, essentially BlackRock in that example would have to sell the Bitcoin on the market to pay out those outflows to the investors in US dollars. And so in other words, BlackRock just over the last couple of days has bought a lot of Bitcoin, over $600 million worth of Bitcoin BlackRock has bought just in the last 2 days or so far this week, based on these inflows. But of course, that is on behalf of investors. And so far with these inflows coming in, and especially a solid day of inflows on Tuesday, this can help with the buying pressure for Bitcoin, helping to see some bullish price action in the short term. And so this is potentially one of the reasons as to why we're seeing some short-term bullish price action, on top of other factors, like for example, the possible end of the conflict in the Middle East, which I covered in my last video. So if you missed my last video, definitely check that out if you want to know more about what's potentially happening with the situation in the Middle East and how that can affect the markets in the short term. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin charts today on the weekly time frame, the super trend indicator is still telling us that we're in a larger bull market. So remember, despite seeing short-term pullbacks and larger slowdowns here and there, corrections in the price of Bitcoin, overall, we're technically still within a much larger bull market if we're zooming out, looking at the bigger picture. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, for now, we're still showing signs of weakness in the weekly Bitcoin MACD. But with that being said, just over the last one day, we've now effectively stopped the slowdown in the histogram. In other words, we're currently no longer moving towards a bearish crossover like what we saw back here during around January, entering into February this year. And so this is the first possible sign that we're starting to see that we're beginning to regain some bullish momentum. But overall, we're not necessarily seeing a significant amount of bullish momentum showing up in this indicator on this time frame, but at least this is some good news, showing us that once again, we're no longer really slowing down. But of course, we still have a bearish divergence to watch out for on the weekly time frame, with higher highs still forming in the price and of course lower highs still in the RSI, which means there's still a bearish divergence to watch out for, even if we see a breakout here in the price, which would potentially temporarily invalidate the bearish divergence. As long as the RSI on the weekly time frame is still below this high that we set back in early December 2024, in that situation, we still would potentially be forming another bearish divergence that could ultimately confirm later on, maybe in a few weeks or a few months from now. And so this is definitely still something to keep an eye on moving forward, even if it does temporarily invalidate with a short-term breakout here. So once again, still a possible warning signal. But if we're taking a look at the 3-day time frame, we're now starting to once again move closer towards a new bullish crossover in the 3-day Bitcoin MACD. And so obviously, as I've already been saying over the last 1 to 2 weeks, we recently confirmed a bearish crossover in the 3-day Bitcoin MACD, showing signs of weakness in the shorter term. And of course, over the last few weeks, we did see a lot of weakness. We did see a bit of a short-term pullback. And overall, for roughly around a month, for over a month, we've just been consolidating sideways, obviously seeing no significant bullish momentum. But as I've been saying more recently, we don't really have a lot of bearish momentum either. So we did have a bit of weakness here in the short term, slowing down, losing bullish momentum, but not necessarily gaining significant bearish momentum. So not necessarily pointing towards a major crash or a bear market or anything, potentially just a slowdown or time of weakness in the price. But once again, we're currently now starting to move towards a possible bullish crossover again in the 3-day Bitcoin MACD. And at the current rate, potentially in a few days from now, this could possibly confirm in this indicator, at which case that would potentially point towards a little bit more bullish momentum now starting to build again. And of course, over the last 1 month, give or take, we have seen a decent reset in the RSI, which now technically gives us some more room towards the upside if we were to see a new bullish crossover maybe in the coming days. So I will be sure to keep you up to date on what's happening in this indicator on this time frame. And if we're taking a look at the daily Bitcoin price chart, for now, obviously the price of Bitcoin is continuing that major bounce from this significant level of support at approximately 97 to 98,000. And obviously we bounced from almost exactly 98,000, really just $100 or $200 above 98K is exactly where we bounced from. And so obviously I'd continue to expect a lot of support right there. And I'd now expect a lot of support at approximately 103 to 104,000, considering obviously we've recently broken out back above that area. And previously that was strong support. And just before taking a look at a new price pattern that's currently forming on the daily Bitcoin price chart, giving a quick update on the support and resistance in the shorter term. First of all, obviously we're continuing to play out the oversold signal here in the 6-hour Bitcoin RSI. And obviously, so far, this is actually playing out quite similar to what we saw last time. But as I always say, of course, an oversold signal by itself does not always result in this exact outcome playing out. It just so happens that we're seeing the same outcome that we saw last time repeat again. But sometimes it is possible we could just see a slight bullish relief before ultimately turning back in the bearish direction. That's still a possibility that we need to consider when it comes to these oversold signals. But for now, obviously, it's still playing out. And of course, there's other factors influencing the price right now, like, for example, that possible end to the conflict in the Middle East and also inflows into the Bitcoin ETFs. And also, if we're looking at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, we're now starting to see a bit of a short-term short squeeze. And obviously, in my last video before this latest bullish move right here, I was talking about how we now have a lot of liquidity starting to build at around 106.6K to 106.7K. So basically in between around 106,500 to 107,000, we were starting to build a lot of liquidity right there. So like I said in my last video, it's very likely that very soon, maybe over the next few days, we'll likely see another bullish move to take out this liquidity. Because usually, not always, but usually the price of Bitcoin tends to move towards where there's a lot of liquidity. And that's exactly what we saw close to a week ago. Obviously, we had liquidity building below the price. So in that case, obviously, we saw a dump to take out that liquidity to the downside. But obviously, just recently, we had that liquidity building above the price, pointing towards most likely some bullish price action coming next to take out that upside liquidity. So we've now exactly played that out, which once again, I've been talking about recently here on the channel. And the next liquidity to watch out for is really at around 109 to 110,000. So keep that in mind. It is actually now quite possible we could continue towards around 109.5 to 110,000 based on the fact that we now have a lot of liquidity starting to build there. And when it comes to support and resistance to watch out for, we've just now started to confirm a breakout above this previous significant area of resistance, which I'd now expect support in, and that's sitting in between around 106 to 107,000. So once again, we've just now seen a 6-hour candle close above 107,000. So I'd now expect support in that region if we were to see a little bit of a pullback here. And as for resistance to watch out for, if we continue this bullish move here, expect some resistance at around 108.5K to 109,000, and then major resistance in between 110,000 to 110.5K. And then above that, ultimately, the all-time high would be the next point of resistance at close to 112,000. But obviously, if we can ultimately break out above 108,500 to 109,000, then it would be extremely likely that soon after that, we'll just simply continue towards 110,000 to take out this liquidity. Because once again, that's the next price target. It's just between the current price and that liquidity, there is this possible resistance here that's worth paying attention to. And if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin price chart, the price of Bitcoin is now potentially forming a new technical price pattern that we need to pay attention to, which is of course a falling wedge pattern. We have descending lows, a descending line of support, and also a descending line of resistance. But these lines, as we can see, are slightly converging, forming a falling wedge pattern, which is typically a bullish price pattern. because roughly 2 times out of 3, a falling wedge breaks out to the upside, and then roughly a third of the time it breaks to the downside. So of course, a bullish price pattern can break to the downside. It's just that's the less likely scenario. So statistically speaking, it is more likely that we'll break out towards the upside than to the downside, at least based on this price pattern. But obviously, as always, when it comes to confirming the price target and confirming a possible trading strategy, we need to ultimately wait for a confirmed break of either support or resistance. And currently, this line of support is sitting at approximately just above 100,000. So really in between 100,000 to 101,000 as the strong support to pay attention to. And this line of resistance is currently sitting at approximately 109,000, really just above 109,000. So we need to see a daily candle close, ideally confirm above 109,000 and actually hold above that area in order to ultimately confirm the bullish price target for this new price pattern. And there's really 2 ways we can measure a technical price target based on a falling wedge pattern. The first way is to simply just look at the top of the wedge, this high right here, as the first price target once we confirm a breakout above this resistance, which is of course the all-time high at close to 112,000 as the first major price target. And if we're taking a look at a measured move, a measured price target like this, setting up that bullish price target, if we first confirm this breakout, that would set up a secondary price target at around 119,000. So for example, from the point of the breakout at roughly 109,000, obviously that'll be close to a $10,000 move towards the upside, or roughly a 9% move towards the upside if we complete that price target. And so a possible trading strategy based on this breakout right here would be, first of all, waiting for confirmation. So if we first confirm a breakout with at least a daily candle close, ideally confirming above around 109,000 and holding above that level, in that situation, that would be a signal to possibly open a long position to trade that move towards the upside, and then perhaps taking a small amount of profits here and there out of the long position around key points of resistance, or maybe the first price target, and then taking a bit more profits closer towards the second price target. And then as always, if we first confirm a breakout and then confirm a break back to the downside below the point of the breakout, that would invalidate the breakout and invalidate the trade, and of course invalidate the entire pattern and the price target. So in that situation, I'd have my stop loss just below the point of invalidation. So let's just say if I open a trade above the breakout here, once we confirm the breakout above this resistance, I'd have a stop loss just below that previous point of resistance, so that if we were to invalidate the trade like this, essentially I'll just take a small loss and avoid further losses in that worst case scenario. And then as the trade moves further into profits, I'll just slowly move my stop loss further into profits alongside the trade, so that even in the worst case scenario, if of course my stop loss is sitting in profits, I would automatically secure profits. And so once again, that's just an example of a trading strategy that I've used many times here on the channel very transparently to make a lot of easy profits when it comes to these breakout moves here. But once again, at least for now, that is not currently in play. It's not currently confirmed because we've not yet confirmed the breakout above this resistance. So there's still a possibility we could see another rejection here before maybe breaking out later on. And as always, that is not personal financial advice because I don't know your personal financial situation. I'm just letting you know example of trading strategies and things that I personally use to make money myself. But if you want to get set up ready to go to take these trading opportunities in the price of any crypto, obviously you have to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And personally, I'm taking a lot of my crypto trades over on BTNX, so I'll make sure to leave a link to BTNX below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, you can get some massive trading bonuses over here, like for example, up to $45,000 in trading bonuses, and also deposit bonuses. Like for example, if you deposit just 1,000 USDT, you get a $200 bonus into your BTNX account, but only if you use that link. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, or if you're preparing to take the next trading opportunity, you might as well get set up ready to go using the link below this video to BTNX to claim these massive bonuses here. And in case you're wondering, BTNX is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want BTNX as an exchange, there's also 2bit as another option out there, another exchange that I also trade on. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to 2bit below this video. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can also claim some massive trading bonuses, like for example, up to $50,000 in trading bonuses just by trading crypto using the link below this video, and also deposit bonuses, like for example, a $30 sign up bonus and a 20% deposit rebate up to a max of 200 USDT. So for example, if you deposit just $1,000, you get a $200 bonus over on 2bit, but only if you use that link. And in case you're wondering, 2bit is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a look at Ethereum on the daily time frame, and just over the the last 1 to 2 days, we've now confirmed daily candle closes back above approximately 2.4k, which is technically now confirming the breakout back above that key level on the price chart, which previously was significant support, and I'll now expect support again at roughly around 2.4k and just below 2.4k, so around 2380 to 2390 as well. And of course, I would also expect a lot of support at closer towards around 2.1k, which is pretty much exactly where we bounced from. And obviously, I've been talking about that as major support since before we saw that break below 2.4k. But for now, the price has basically just broken back into this previous sideways price range. So it's possible we just stay in this sideways price range for a little longer now that we're holding above 2.4k, at least as of recording this video. But of course, we still have significant resistance above the price that's worth paying attention to. So first of all, I would expect some resistance at roughly 2,500, but really the next significant resistance is in between around 2.7k to 2.8k. And technically speaking, despite the current short-term breakout back above 2.4k, we've not really changed the price structure back into the bullish direction, at least not yet, because obviously, at least for now, we're currently starting to form lower highs and lower lows, which is technically bearish price structure. So ideally, we now need to start to form some sort of higher low on the price chart, whether we first see a little bit more of a pump and then a pullback to form a higher low, or ultimately just form some sort of higher low like this on the price chart. Either way, I'd like to see some sort of higher low put in place in the next few days or the next couple of weeks, give or take, in order to start forming some bullish price structure again and start to be more confident in more of a bullish trend reversal out of this recent pullback. And so just keep that in mind when it comes to the price structure on the daily time frame. We're still not really looking all too great. And if we're taking a look at this daily Ethereum price chart, technically speaking, this bearish divergence is still currently valid because we've not yet confirmed an invalidation signal to properly invalidate the bearish divergence. And so this means that the price is still at risk of essentially lacking bullish momentum. So yes, we could see decent bounces a little bit here in the short term here and there, but ultimately we're still once again showing signs of weakness in terms of this bearish divergence still currently active. So just keep that in mind. Of course, we could see these short-term bullish moves, especially if Bitcoin is playing out a decent bullish move. That's really going to help Ethereum and a lot of the altcoins in the short term. But ultimately, in order to start confirming a major change back in the bullish direction on the slightly larger timeframes here, we need to see some more confirmation, like some sort of higher low and breaking out above some other key levels on the price chart to be more confident that we're really starting to head much more in the bullish direction on the larger timeframes when we're talking about the larger moves. But with that being said, not much else has changed for Ethereum over the last 1 day. So getting straight into the price of Solana on the daily time frame, and what Solana is starting to potentially do as of recording this video is attempt a breakout above this very important area on the price chart, which previously was significant support and also previous significant resistance all the way back here during March 2025. And currently, just recently, it has been acting as a bit of short-term resistance, and that was sitting in between around 143 to 146. And as we can see, once again, as of recording this video, the price of Solana is attempting a breakout above 146, but we're still waiting for confirmation. We're still needing to see at least a daily candle close confirming above 146, and then obviously holding that area now as support. So if we start to see that confirmation in the coming days, of course, that would be bullish, at least in the immediate short term for the price of Solana. And in that situation, the next point of resistance that I'll be watching is, first of all, at around 154 to 155, give or take. And then above that, I would expect more resistance at around 158, and then major resistance at roughly around 167. And so essentially, those are the next price targets in the short term if we first actually confirm the breakout now back above 146. And of course, if we confirm that breakout above 146, I'd now expect support in this region in between 143 to 146. And that will be the first possible change in price structure. But ideally, once we actually confirm the breakout, ideally we'll need some sort of higher low to actually form in place to properly confirm a change in this bearish price structure to start forming more of a bullish trend on the daily time frame, rather than just seeing these little short-term bullish reliefs during a bearish trend. And so those are all of the things that I'm currently watching for the price of Solana. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the daily time frame, it's a similar situation for XRP. Obviously, alongside Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP is also experiencing a short-term bullish relief, a major bounce from this significant support, which is still sitting in between around 192 to 195. And like I've mentioned recently here on the channel, we also just confirmed a breakout back above this previous level of support here at approximately $2.07. So I'd now expect support at around $2.07. And we're also now breaking out above this previous previous Fibonacci level at approximately $2.19 to $2.20. So I'd also now expect a bit of support around there, especially if we confirm a breakout above that level. But ultimately, the price of XRP is essentially just back in this previous sideways price range where we were over the last few weeks or so, essentially bouncing around between this support and this resistance. And the support and resistance I'm talking about is, of course, around $2.07, give or take, as the support, and around $2.30 to $2.35 as the resistance. And so honestly, it is quite likely that the price could continue a bullish move closer towards $2.30 to $2.35, possibly in the coming days here, especially if Bitcoin remains bullish like this in the short term. That can really help XRP and a lot of the altcoin market if Bitcoin is bullish. And so just be aware that that is now a likely scenario here in the short term, but just remember that we would be expecting some major resistance at roughly $2.30 to $2.35, which means it is quite likely the price could start to struggle around there. And despite these short-term bullish moves, technically speaking, the trend or the price structure on the daily time frame is still currently bearish because we're still forming lower highs and lower lows. So ideally, in order to be more confident that we're actually forming a new bullish trend, not just seeing a short-term bullish move during a larger bearish trend, to be more confident in a bullish trend, we need to see some sort of higher high or higher low start to form and actually confirm. So obviously some sort of bounce that's actually above this previous low here, or perhaps a breakout above one of these previous highs, especially if we break out back above around 235, that would be a significant change in price structure for the bullish direction. And so those are the important signals and the key levels that I'm watching for the price of XRP. And if we're taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the 12-hour time frame, Chainlink is currently running into this Fibonacci level of resistance, the 38.2% Fibonacci level, sitting at approximately 1363. So at around 1360 to 1370, expect short-term resistance around there, as we're already starting to see. But if the price of Chainlink confirms a breakout back above around 1370 with candle closes here on the 12-hour time frame above 1370, in that situation we have the 50% retracement level acting as resistance at around 1440 to 1450, and then significant resistance in between around 1520 to 1550. And so especially if the price of Chainlink makes it all the way up towards that 1520 to 1550 region, obviously that is major resistance. If you've been watching this channel over the last few weeks, over the last few months, you know about how significant that level has been. And we also have a possible short-term inverse head and shoulders pattern forming on the 12-hour Chainlink price chart, with a possible left shoulder here, a head, and now a possible right shoulder starting to form. But in order for this to actually confirm a bullish price target, we need to first see a little bit more of a pullback here for the price of Chainlink, perhaps down towards around just below $13. So for example, if we bounce at around $12.80 to $12.90, somewhere around there, and then come back up to break out above around $13.70 with confirmation, that would confirm a new inverse head and shoulders pattern, which would be a bullish price pattern. And the potential price target for that inverse head and shoulders pattern, if it confirms once again, would be sitting just above this golden pocket. But ultimately, considering the significance of this golden pocket here, I would expect basically the price to head into that golden pocket and then struggle around there at around 1520 to 1550. Once again, if it first confirms, we're still waiting for that right shoulder and a possible breakout above this first level of resistance. And if that were to happen, of course, that would potentially form the first higher low on the price chart that we've seen in a long time if we bounce somewhere around here on the price chart, as I just mentioned earlier. And so obviously that would potentially be a change in price structure and a possible trend reversal signal. Obviously, if we're starting to form higher lows and higher highs, that would be a new bullish trend starting to form. So that's a possible signal to watch out for here in the short term over the next few days. But considering the fact that we've not yet actually confirmed that breakout or confirmed that signal here, for now, technically the larger trend or the larger price structure is technically still bearish. We've still formed lower highs and lower lows, and we've not confirmed otherwise, at least not yet. But as I always say, honestly, just follow what Bitcoin is doing to figure out what is most likely going to happen for a lot of the altcoin market. Obviously, it's not the exact same price action, but if Bitcoin plays out a decent bounce like this in the short term, of course, that is going to help a lot of the altcoins in the short term with a decent short-term bounce. And remember, if you want to get set up ready to go to take these trading opportunities in the price of any crypto, get set up ready to go using the links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can trade crypto no matter what direction the price is going, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.